Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. Before I even say another thing, please just signify by raise of the hand if my audio is clear, because we are trying to set things here in order. I want to make sure this conversation goes on right. So if you can hear me, kindly signify by the raise of the hand. Thank you. I need someone to just signify you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm loud and clear. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. We're in for a big time. We're just having a pre-conversation here. And I'm telling you, we have an erudite professor in the house. We are expecting the other professor too. He's on his way. And so we'll just give another 10 minutes before we get the ball rolling on kicking on the events proper. So while we are there, just enjoy yourself with this music that is going on, the jazz there. It's part of architecture. That's part of architecture there. You know, it's an integral part of us. So while we're waiting for the webinar proper to commence, let's just slip in to the webinar with this jazz for the next 10 minutes. Thank you very much. I'm loud and clear. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, we are in for a big time. We're just having a big conversation here, and I'm telling you, we have an erudite professor in the house. We are expecting the other professor to be on his way, and so we will just give another 10 minutes before we get the ball rolling on kicking on the events proper. So while we are there, just enjoy yourself with this music that's going on, the jazz there. It's part of architecture. That's part of architecture. You know, it's an integral part of us. So while we're waiting for the webinar proper to commence, let's just slip in to the webinar with this jazz for the next 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Time, we're just having a conversation here, and I'm telling you, we have an erudite professor in the house. We are expecting the other professor to be on his way, and so we will just give another 10 minutes before we get the ball rolling on kicking on the events proper. So while we are there, just enjoy yourself with this music that's going on, the jazz there. It's part of just slip in to the webinar with this jazz for the next 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Big time. Just having a great conversation here. We are expecting the other and soon we'll just another 10 minutes before we get the ball rolling on kicking on the bench proper. So while we are there, just enjoy yourself with this music like going with jazz. It's part of architecture. It's part of it's an integral part of us. So while we're waiting for the webinar proper to commence, let's just slip in to the webinar with this jazz for the next 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Big time. Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. I warmly welcome you to the live broadcast of. Hold on, please. Can you start the recording? Is it recording? I think it's recording. It's recording. It's recording. Recording. Okay, it's recording. Oh, okay, I know where that is coming from. Wow. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. There are some technical issues that, it's a learning curve for us here. Every time we come here and we try to do this live transmission, one technical anomaly just comes up, and it's a curve, it's a learning curve, it's a curveball that is thrown at us, and we learn from it every day. It's part of life, learning new devices, learning new ways of doing things differently. And with that, I warmly welcome each and every one of you to the May edition what I call the bumper to bumper webinar series. I'm telling you, we have power packed, fully loaded, reloaded like the Matrix webinar. It's mind blowing. Where along the line we're going to have, I won't tell you his name, we're going to have a guest speaker from the UK, from the Zaha Hadid Architects. He's going to come in and talk to us about the practice and what happens in Zaha Hadid. You don't want to miss that. Next week there is going to be another webinar. The following week there's going to be another webinar. It's fully loaded May webinar. Trust me, you don't want to miss any. Above all, is because it's all these webinars are CPDP and point earning webinars, which Akon is going to use going forward, like the notice stated, going forward for your renewals, be it subscription, be it events and all of that. It's not going to be business as usual anymore, so we should take these webinars seriously, and we should have our notepads, because I'm very sure Anchor is going to, even after we forwarded your names for approval to Anchor, Akon is going to test you on your competency on each webinar you put forward as being a participant. So it's good that you are fully attention in every session. You are recording, making your recordings in any form, on any device you may want to do. You may want to do. You know, so we are advised, we are candidly advised to make sure we take seriously these sessions. All right, now, well, like I think I've apologized first for our delayed technical issues in here and there, and we were learning through the whole curve and all of that. Thank you very much. You're all welcome. It's glad to have all of you in-house here. With me, I have two erudite profs to open up the discussion, the conversation we are having in this series. This is going to be, I don't know how many series it's going to be because it's large. And this particular webinar topic, which is the architectural history, theory, and criticism, it's very key and core to our essence as practicing architects. It's very, very key. It's an eye-opener because you know, when you don't know, one of the profs said, I don't want to unveil his name yet, one of the profs says, if you don't know where you are going, where you are coming from, how will you know where you are going? You know, it's like a pelican in the desert. You have lost direction. Your GPS is your history. Your understanding of your cultural, architectural route is your GPS to locate your destination. And that is what this conversation, what is what this lecture, that is what this webinar is all about. For us to to locate and be able to lock in on our GPS, to know where we are coming from, so we can have our own philosophy, how we evolved as a people, how our architecture evolved, because everything hitherto we've known has been from a colonial perspective or perception. Now this webinar is affording us the opportunity to know our roots, our cultural roots, our architectural cultural roots from our own perspective. And with me to do this justice, before I go on to do the justice, the housekeeping rules we have here. Please, as the webinar has started, please ensure that your mics are on mute. They are muted. Remain muted so we don't have any form of interference at any point in time. Two, when you want to make a comment, observation, or ask a question, you can do that in the Q&A box. And when we get to the Q&A section, live section, if you want to make an input, that is, you want to unmute your mic, we will do that by the raise of the hand. There's an icon at where is it, sir? Let me see. It's somewhere down there. Okay, it's somewhere down in the participants log there. There's an icon that you can signify by the raise of the hand. So we from here who are
hosting the webinar will unmute you and will grant you the permission to speak. Having said that, before I go on, let me just introduce, as it were, my co-host here, all the way from the University of Lagos, Akoka. I'm told they say there's only one school, University of Lagos and others. Whether that is true, I don't know. Time will tell. We will understand that very soon. So joining me on this co-hosting of this webinar is no other than our pen of the ready writer, who is always doing a yeoman's job on all the anchor platforms, giving us architectural, inspirational thoughts and musings on the architectural platforms. That's if you are on any WhatsApp, anchor WhatsApp platform, you will have seen her postings. Very rich and adept in knowledge. No other than our dear sister Omolade Adeomi. Omolade, you are welcome. You want to say something before we set the ball rolling?
A very, very good afternoon to everybody. I'm grateful to be here, and I hope that we all pay attention to what we are about to be taught today. Kindly enjoy it. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that little charge there. Before I even introduce our speaker, one of the speakers, today is his birthday. I was just told. So please, if you are there, if you can, I want you to turn on your videos. Turn on your videos. Please turn on your videos like I'm doing mine. Please, we want to sing happy birthday to our erudite prof who just retired from service, 40 years of active service in the academia at the University of Lagos. No other than the one and only, the erudite prof, the guru himself, the one and only, Professor Joseph Igwe. Please put your hands together. You can unmute yourself. This is where you can unmute yourself, please. So let's put our hands together and we will sing. I want you to unmute yourself if you can. I don't know if you can. Once we sing the happy birthday, we will now mute our mics back. Okay. Yes, I had someone say, so that mic is okay. For those of you who have unmuted your mic, join me in singing happy birthday to Prof now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. They will need to sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you, Prof. Happy birthday to you. Lord bless you. That's the Prof there. Bring it down so that you can see him. That's good. May the Lord bless you, Prof. Igwe. May the good Lord bless you. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray. All right, so you can see that this particular webinar is a landmark webinar. I mean, the guest speaker, one of the guest speakers, having his birthday on this August webinar in May. It's absolutely splendid. Prof, may the Lord strengthen you, and I know you are not retired, because you are not tired. You are just retired. You are not tired. I know you. You still have so much more to deliver. In fact, that's why you are here. You see, Prof is retired, but he's not tired. He's still an active speaking prof. So that is Professor Joseph Igwe, one of the panelists. I will read out his citation. Do I have his citation? Yes, I do. Let me start with him. Let me read his citation here. I read his citation on the book Presentation and Hybrid Colloquium that was held on Thursday, May 6th, 2021. Okay, let me just read a citation of Prof. I'm going to skip your middle name because up till now I've not been able to pronounce it. Okay, yes. Professor Joseph M. Igwe is a seasoned professor of architectural history, theory, and criticism in the Department of Architecture, University of Lagos, Nigeria. He is a chartered architect registered by Architect Registration Council of Nigeria, ACON. He is a fellow of Association of Nigerian Chartered Architects, a fellow of Nigerian Institute of Chartered Arbitrators, and a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants. In his over 40 years of service in the academics, he was an advocate of deep-rooted cultural inputs in design conceptualization. His research interest recently tilted towards architectural criticism and history. He is a committed member of the Architecture and Urbanism Research Hub, University of Lagos, Akoka. Once again, Prof, you are welcome. Thank you. We are very glad to have you here. And the second person, who is a great prof, of he's a landscape architect, no other than the erudite Prof himself, the very amiable, very warm, welcoming Prof, is no other than Professor Tunji Adejumo. You are welcome, sir. Can we say, okay, that's Professor Tunji Adejumo there. Yeah, you can wave there. Thank you very much. The third discussant is architect, our own architect, Ladi Lewis, but he had an emergency. He was already here. There was a phone call that came in and he had to leave. Our prayers are with him that all will be well, all will go well, despite the situation. That's our prayer. We will surely miss him in this conversation we are about to have. So okay, let me also quickly read the Professor Tunji Adejumo's citation briefly. I will read it from the back of. Can you see this book? This is what this webinar is about. Everything that we are going to discuss is contained in this book. This book is the Architectural Conference, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. You know, it's telling us about our yesterday, about our today, and our tomorrow. And that is what history is about. Without knowing your roots, your culture, your history, you are definitely going to be, like I said earlier on, like a pelican in the desert. So I'll read Professor Tunji Adejumo's brief citation from the back of this rich, voluminous book that talks so much about history, theory, and criticism of architecture. Professor Tunji Adejumo is a landscape architect, urban design theorist, and associate prof of the landscape architecture in the Department of Architecture, University of Lagos, Nigeria. He was the immediate past president of International Federation of Landscape Architects, African Region. Dr. Adejumo is an external collaborator to Critical Landscape Design Laboratory at Harvard Graduate School of Design, Harvard University, Cambridge, USA. He is also a member of African Journal of Landscape Architecture editorial board. He is currently the coordinator of architecture and urbanism research hub at the University of Lagos, Akota. Folks, we have two powerful professors, well-grounded, well-rooted, well-knowledgeable in what they do, and we're about to have it. Now, to set the ball rolling, without further ado, is going to be our erudite prof, the celebrant of the day, Professor Joseph Igwe, retired but not tired. Prof, let me just open his content of his presentation. Okay. While we are waiting for that, Omolade, what is your anticipation for this webinar? Can you just fill us in, please? What is your expectation? What is your expectation for this webinar? Come on, tell me.
Today is really going to be insightful. We're grateful for the professors we have here, and I hope everyone is as excited as I am to learn. Majorly, we've learned over the years that we don't have a history of our own, but today we are going to see that we have a history of our own. And when we can learn if we can learn our history, we can know where we are, know where we are now, and know where we are going to be in the future. So I hope everyone is excited. Let's get our notepads, let's listen, let's pay attention, and let's not forget to invite all our friends and colleagues that need to be here and that needs to learn from this program. Also, let's endeavor to mute our mics. And there is a number on the chat box, my phone number. If you have any question, kindly send your questions to that phone number. WhatsApp only, please. Very important. WhatsApp only. Thank you. We want you guys to know that we are trying to share the screen for Professor Igwe. He just stepped in, so we are trying to set up. Please bear with us. Thank you so much.
Okay. Prof, you have. Can I make it bigger? Sorry? Okay, bigger. You have the floor for the next. That's it. So this is what you just press. Yes.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Please, can you hear me? Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We do.
Hello?
Can you signify if you can?
Hello? Can anyone hear me?
Please,
Yes,
if you can
we do.
hear Prof,
we
kindly signify.
Yes, we can hear.
We can hear you. We can hear you, sir.
We can hear.
Signify with the raise of a hand.
Please, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Hello, we can hear
Yes,
you.
we can hear.
Somebody has replied. Okay. Okay.
Please
Thank
go
you very
ahead,
much,
sir.
and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk on the topic architectural history. Now, this is one of a series of lectures in 3 parts. The full lecture is architectural history, first part, architectural theory, second part, and architectural criticism, third part. For today, I will discuss the first part, which is architectural history. Now, when we talk about architecture or we discuss architecture, what we call intellectual discourse on architecture, whatever we discuss or say falls into 3 categories. It is either it is history, or it is theory, or it is criticism. This 3 summarizes all architectural discourse. So I'm taking the first one, which is architectural history. Now, buildings first evolved out of the dynamics between needs and means. What are the needs? Needs for shelter, needs for security, for worship, and so on. And what are the means? Available building materials and attendant skills. So building evolved from the dynamic between these. As human culture developed and knowledge began to be formalized through oral traditions, practices, buildings became a craft, and architecture is the name given to the most highly formalized and respected versions of the crafts. Now, since I'm talking about architectural history, I want to start with a definition. Someone gave an inaugural lecture in Bedford College, University of London, on the 12th of May, 1983. His name is Mondant Crook. In that lecture, he defined architectural history as the study of our built environment in its historic context. The study of our built environment in its historic context. That is the definition of architectural history. And I subscribe to that definition. So from this definition, it follows that the core of the discipline of architectural history is the search for an understanding of buildings in the context of the period in which they were produced. A building can be studied as a monument, like we studied so many monumental buildings in classical times, in Egypt, everywhere. A building can be studied as a monument. It can also be studied as a structure, like the Pyramid of Egypt is a structure. It can also be studied as a tectonic equation on internal evidence. Studying building under these subtitles is what we call the archaeological approach to the study of history. The building can also be studied vicariously on the basis of external evidence, manuscripts, drawings, building accounts, and correspondences. This is the documentary approach. In other words, we are using existing documents to study the history. Thirdly, a building may be studied conceptually as a work of art, as a design, in relation to aesthetic theory. This is the visual or art historical approach. So these are the three approaches to studying architectural history. Architectural history encompasses all three methods because architecture is a palpable history and culture in three dimensions. It is a compound of structural techniques, aesthetic instincts, and historical social values, according to Crook, 1984. The reasons for studying architectural history are similar in many ways to those for any historical study. They relate to human needs to understand the present and are based on the belief that such an understanding is impossible without knowledge of the past. As Conway, 1987, explained, studies of the past enable us to understand where we have come from and something of the complex choices and decisions that have led to where we are today. Without that perspective, human understanding is limited and it becomes difficult to foresee alternatives or recognize other possibilities of choice. It is the function of the architectural historian to trace the origin, growth, decline of the architectural styles which have prevailed in different lands and ages, and to show how they have reflected the great movements of civilization. It is also his function to explain the principles of the styles, their characteristics or their characteristic forms and decorations, and to describe the great masterpieces of each style and period. Technically, architectural styles are identified by the means they employ to cover enclosed spaces, by the characteristic forms of the supports and their members. Here, they are talking about the piers, the columns, the arches, the moldings, the traceries, and so on. And also by their decoration, which we call ornamentation. A historic style is a particular phase, the characteristic manner of design, which prevails at a given time and place. It is not the result of mere accident or caprice, but of intellectual, moral, social, religious, and political conditions. Each style is based upon some fundamental principles springing from its surrounding civilization, which undergoes successive developments until it either reaches a perfection or its possibilities are exhausted, after which a period of decline usually sets in. So we now say that particular style becomes out of fashion, it's no longer in vogue, or it becomes old school. This is followed either by a reaction, an introduction of some radical new principles leading to the evolution of a new style, or by the final decay and extinction of the civilization and its replacement by some more viral elements. The study of architectural history involves a process of finding out, questioning, and interpretation. You first find out, Having found out, you question. Having questioned, you now, the finding out and the questioning enables you to give an interpretation to the context. To gain a full picture of the subject matter, the historian will be involved with a wide range of sources or source materials, ranging from the object itself, in which case the particular work of architecture, or drawings of the particular work, to books and documents, such as letters, bills, or diaries. Such material for historical research is divided into two main areas, namely primary sources and secondary sources. Primary sources are those contemporary with the period that is being studied, while secondary sources are interpretations of a period by later historians and writers. By the time you combine the primary and secondary sources, you are able to get good information about the subject matter. The study of architectural history can be divided into three segments. 1, the practical, 2, the historical, and 3, the aesthetic. So studying history has practical benefits. It has historical benefits and aesthetic benefits. In the practical sphere of research, the historian tries to establish what was built, when it was built, and the names of the patron and designer. These are, the information you get in the practical sphere of research. The historic sphere of the research enables the historian to discover why the building was built at all. Get to know why it was built. The aesthetic sphere of the research enables the historian to describe and account for the visual or stylistic differences between one building and another, to explain how and why styles change, and why one style is adopted rather than another. For architects, historical studies of buildings provide the means to discover general principles common to the architecture of all times. As today's architecture is a conglomeration of different architectural elements of the past, it behooves architects to be well acquainted with past developments in the industry, so that they will be well acquainted or well equipped for the future. According to Rogers, who is an author, and he wrote in 1961, to understand history is essential for the formation of the architect. So to form the architect at all, to produce the architect, understanding history is very, very essential, since he must be able to insert his own work into the context and to take into account dialectically into account. In other words, the architect, whatever he's designing, must fit into the context of the site, of the times, of the political situation, the economic situation, and all. And then that his design will take all these contexts into account. An understanding of history is part of the process of exercising control over our lives, whether as individuals, as groups, or as society. A society with no knowledge of its past is like a man suffering from amnesia. And I'm quick to add that amnesia means a state of extreme forgetfulness, when you are not able to remember your past and learn from it. Then you suffer from amnesia. An architect with limited understanding of architectural history will continue to repeat the errors of the past. In other words, whatever he sees, oh, this is what is in vogue now, he copies. He didn't know how that came about, how it was evolved. Oh, this is what is raining, he copies. Instead of creating his own design based on proper understanding of development, both from history to the present. Now, having said that, I think I've given you enough food for thought. This will encourage you to read architectural books, read history, because it is when you begin to read history that you begin to enjoy the study of architecture. It's something you enjoy. Anytime you are bored, drawing, designing, and all that, take out time to take a book on architectural history. Read it, you feel very lively. I want to thank you for listening to me. My next session, which is another day, will be on architectural theory. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Prof, the great Prof himself, giving us the background, the backdrop of architectural history, culture, that's history, theory, and criticism. Just before we bring on Professor Adejumo, from the brief introduction Professor Joseph Igwe just made, Omolade, what's your take on that? What's your take on that? What is your advice to the participants and to the community of architects at large with regards to practice, how we should incorporate culture into our practice based on these foundational stones Prof has laid? Thank you.
Like what Professor Igwe said, a man without a knowledge of his history is suffering from amnesia. He also made emphasis on because we see things that are trending, we just try to copy it. So now that he has shown us the better part, before we copy something, and it's not even right for us to copy, let us understand the history, the thought process behind it, and try to create our own.
Yeah, thank you very much, Olade. I take something for what she said. We need to understand the thought process behind every concept, every innovation, everything we see in the society. Before I came here, I played element tennis, and there was this very knowledgeable lawyer that engaged me because he had seen what we started on the book launch that we did, and he saw the interview and he was impressed by it, and he said that this is what they've always been craving for. You know, that we should not be a copy and paste professional, you know, in what we do, because we are even critiquing one building where we just retired after playing tennis and to just have some breakfast. And you know, we looked at the building and you could see that there was no thought process in that building. We as architects must have a definite intentional thought process in our design, which must have been informed by history, by culture that is within the context of our client. We should not just borrow what is out there that is compatible with their own client and just import it here. That's the copy and paste syndrome in local parlance, copy and paste syndrome. Now, what theory, architectural theory and history and theory and criticism is all about is to open up our mind, to expand our mind on how we should approach our design intent, our conceptualization in when we know what will inform our thought process when we are designing, when we are even advising clients on use of material, because it just goes beyond drawing lines. you have to analyze every aspect of your design intent before you even put paper to tracing paper to pen or whatever it is. So it's all about a thought process. It's all about a thought process that must be duly informed by the culture, the roots of an intent of what we are doing. And that is where, if you recall, when we are in school, and which we should carry on in practice, we have case studies. Case studies should form part of our sheets, our presentation, our documentation sheets, our working construction, the case study. How did your design evolve to where you got it to? There must be case studies, there must be references, there must be where you cited from, where you got, where you brought about the body of concept you emerged into, that you arrived at, as it were. So that is the thing. So architecture is beyond just, and this is a critical point. This is not just an academic discourse. This is how we can take ownership of our practice from quacks. Because when we begin to distinguish ourselves in the way we enrich our thought process, our architectural thought process, it begins to take it away from the quacks. When your knowledge base, and that is why we are embarking on this professional capacity development exercise through these webinars, so that we will become wealthy architects in knowledge, in thought, in deeds, and in conceptualization and in execution of what we design as architects. And that is the thing. Thank you very much, Professor Joseph Ikwo, for that foundation you laid there. And to build up on the foundation, the superstructure, the Prof has laid the foundation. To build on the superstructure of the foundation that has been laid is our erudite Prof, my very, the first time I saw him on architecture, urbanism and research hub, I fell in love with him. You will love the way he flows. He's a for want of words, a very braggadocious. I love the way he talks. I love the way he flows. He has energy. He has, he's a man with content and capacity. So I'll bring on Professor Olatunji Adejumo. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have to share now.
Okay, go on.
All right. Is that okay now? Are they saying me?
Just ask if we can see. If we can hear you, rather. Yeah.
I have a. Is that okay? I don't know whether I'll share. Can you see?
I can see your screen.
Oh,
you need to share. Okay, let me have this. Okay. Oh, okay. This is what you share. This is you share from here. You share from here. Share.
Yeah.
Basic. Where is your? This is it. That's it. So we share this. All right.
Very well.
So we enlarge it. Bam. Yeah, that's it. So okay. Just go this way or that way. Great.
Thank you. Well, it's nice being here, ladies and gentlemen, dear, and it's great. I am standing here as a marketer this afternoon. Prof has come to speak about the three things.
Please take your time.
And we were privileged to drink from Prof's intellectualism from his cup. And when we put this book together out there at the Architecture and Urbanism Research Hub in his honor, it's called Architectural Confluence, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. And from the hub, we put it across to many people in the nation. But we have about 16 chapters here. What we are trying to do is to troubleshoot, if that's the best language to do it. Troubleshoot in the sense that local material for history is very scarce. local material for theory, architectural theory, is very scarce. So we now say, okay, let us go out there in his honor and come up with this book. And all of you guys looking at me must buy it anyway. Yeah, at the 12 then we'll talk about the price. And that's the truth. And before we started this, when I came, we were brainstorming here. And both the coordinator of this program, we brainstormed on what exactly is the problem we have. And I said that we as a people, that I will not narrow it to architecture alone, that a dear friend of mine, who is an urban anthropologist, give a definition of what the problem is. I said the problem that we are suffering from culture shock. Culture shock is a state of mental disorientation. You do not know whom you are. You want to be somebody else. And nature has made it that you must know whom you are. And that's what the issue of culture shock is. In other words, you are disoriented. You do not know where you are coming from. You do not know where you are going. Because you do not know, you want to be somebody else. You want to drag, you have no self-confidence in yourself. And that's the problem we have as a people. And I said, we must appreciate what is good. That of all arts in Nigeria, that like one of the writers said when you get to the book, people in performing art, they have escaped this mess. Now they are called Nollywood. They sat down to create the kind of image they want to portray. They don't want to be called Hollywood. They don't want to be called Bollywood. That is India. And they sit over here. That what they want to package, they will package African, Nigerian culture in movies. And they've hit it. But Nigerian architecture since 1960 have not. Unfortunately, in 1969, when Akon came into existence, it's about 51 years right now. We're still hanging in space. And the problem with us as architecture here is that our roots have minimal respect for history. Indeed, we were even made to believe we don't have history. And we don't have philosophy of life. And if we don't have, then you must do somebody else. That means originality and authenticity of the design is missing. But there is a womb where this thing comes from. There's a design womb. Design did not come from space. And because we don't know whom we are too quick to buy, once we graduate, we are too quick to buy camera, take a flight to Dubai, take picture and come and plant it home. It's the highest level of senselessness. And that is the problem with Nigerian architecture, not only like Nigerian design generally. But when I say design, including interior, including landscape, including web design, it's still the same process. We are fast to go and look and spend money and buy internet. The next thing you pick is to go back online to go and crop some buildings. Then you now Lumi on it. And the uninformed, if you are a student, uninformed lecturer say it's good. No, you are daft. And he is daft that says it's good. Because your design has no root. Why? It's like a baby in the womb. There's a womb of creation. A baby in the womb rely upon the umbilical cord of his mother to feed. Now, when he opted from feeding from her mother's umbilical cord, he looked for somebody else. He's going to starve to death because no connection. There's a creative womb. We are all in the business of visiting this creative womb. The palaces, the pyramids, the fantastic buildings of the past, they are in that womb. Even the buildings of today is in that womb. The building of tomorrow will be in that womb too. It's your capacity to feed using your own umbilical cord that makes you a master. Unfortunately, we left our own womb. we now connected to Western Rome, and they are very quick to cut off the umbilical cord. So that you will not die, the only thing you now have to do is to be shoplifting. You go and shoplift building. That means you steal the building. We have an example on the National Theatre there. But again, I will quote one of the Nigerian televangelists. He had a book in 2007. A friend of mine, an American black friend of mine, was asking me, did Obama read this book before he came to contest? I said, I don't know. But he was telling me that Obama is the product of two pastors, this book and his own pastor. I said, why? That was when I bought these two books. Unless we have a good grasp of the past, that is the architectural history that Prof was not saying right now, we will not be able to understand the future. Because today is a product of yesterday. Tomorrow is conceptualized today. If you don't understand yesterday, you will not be able to know the shortcomings of today, and you will not be able to produce what will benefit tomorrow. So that is the issue. So history becomes very important. Like what Just Pro have just said. I pulled this particular drawing because it's in this book. The thing is saying here that we must sit down deliberately, three authors under this book. One look at architecture is a young architect, a young lecturer from Nsukka. The other one look at the history of the city, and the other one is an experienced architect who is looking at the meta narrative of housing. I asked him why. He said because 99% of Nigerian architects who have PhD hang around housing, and the housing they do not understand. They are not talking about architecture of housing. They are talking about economics of housing. They have no business with that, but because they don't want PhD. And if we must redefine, if we must reset this nation, we must understand that we really look at what was the past. In these two buildings, about last year, for over 1 year, people are talking about COVID-19. But these two people, Nwokolo and Akindeju, they went to the past. This is Nigeria in 1920. On the right, the Nigerian contingent that won for the First World War, they brought Spanish flu to Nigeria. The other one is how the Spanish flu flowed. Of course, you know by 1924, as bubonic plague came, probably because they thought we didn't die enough, and they now gave us another thing to kill us. Just like the experiment of Ebola is going on in Guinea, probably because we do not die enough. I do not know. I don't want to say that. But it came in 1924, bubonic plague, superimposed with this Spanish flu. These people came in. But that is the benefit of history. By 1939, LEDB came. That how do they design houses to survive this? A problem without LEDB is only Guru now. Go there, Surulere. That is history. So when the entire Nigerian community were saying post-COVID, COVID this, COVID that, I said because they refused to go back to history of how we survived. The first one, how did it come to Nigeria? That was Nigerian port. These people, they brought it there. The next under history in this book, this is the young architect. His name is Ebuka Igwe. He's not related to Professor Igwe, but brilliant. It's at Nsukka. He went to the Aka. This is pre-colonial Igbo building. The one to the left. But two other people, Johnson and Adebayo, who was now concerned about architecture, history of housing. That if you do not know the history of housing, you will not know the architecture of housing, you will not know the issue of social housing, and that is the crisis we have. We have Brazilian style. He came on board by 1880. Then the British came aboard. Now here is the LSDPC. No correlation. We're just picking one era and put nothing from the first to the second to benefit us. And that's why you can go to this book. You see the sequence there. That is, how do we change? What are the influences in the spatial use of building between 1861 and up to date? It's history. And that is the issue. Then we now say, if we know the history, we should have the confidence to be talking about philosophy. Because the philosophy itself is what the thinking process is. I was talking to one of our moderators here who was talking about the issue. Now, you cannot know the philosophy, you cannot know the history of the philosophy unless you know the history. And we have this quotation here. The lady is saying, we do not escape into philosophy, psychology, or art. Not that because we are short or we're not brilliant in design, but we go there to restore our shattered self. The truth is that we have shattered architectural situation in Nigeria right now. It's a profession dying of implosion, eternal bleeding, killing itself. A profession in which people have now been reduced to stamping. Chinese will come with this building stamp. South Africa will come with stamp. But however brilliant you are as a Nigerian, if you go down to South Africa here, you cannot practice. You must practice the system. Not Nigeria, because we refuse to. We do not have a philosophy to direct even the management. And we are now saying, we need to now come, if we are looking for originality, we need to go back and understand some basic philosophy. And we have 3 people in this same book. They are using the Yorubas of the southwestern Nigeria as an example. I asked them question. I said, you guys, if you guys that wrote this book, that when we were selected, they're saying that the same thing can be repeated by the Igbos, by the chiefs, by the Hausas, that they have done this research. Let us look at one or two that they say. The first one is saying that we got stuck in form follow, I do not know. We are still confused with this form follow function thing. Do form really follow function? One of the writers said form do not follow anything. Form do not follow function, has never followed function, and will never follow function. The form follow function was wrong because we were not there in Athens Charter of 1933. That is where the master himself, Corbusier, and his team met on a yacht on Mediterranean Sea to redefine the ecosystem metaphor of the Sullivan of 1897. Sullivan himself, in the form follow function that Mr. Corbusier said, it's not what Sullivan said. And so we came to Nigeria, and that's why we have been taught. If form follow function, here is this building, Hagia Sophia. These 2 architects designed it around 500 AD. In 1400, it was turned to a mosque, designed for Christian, for church, now become a mosque. In 1934, was put to be a museum. Same building. Now it's back to a mosque last year. Does form follow that function? It doesn't. Who is deceiving who? And that's why we are saying that we must troubleshoot. The next building is a giant nonsense that is giving us worry. We call it National Theatre. It was designed by this architect, Stephen Colos. It's still standing. He designed and built, it was finished in 1989, called Palace of Culture and Sports Civic Building. But in 1975, we shoplifted it by a firm called Techno Consult. And we planted it in the swamp of Igomu. is now a monster, decaying, because it's not from our own womb. It's a military camp following the order of Hitler that is based upon sun worship, swastika they call it. How can it represent our culture? It's there now. Why? We refuse to go to the womb that created the palaces before the colonial master. That's our own civic building. To think we ought to go and shoplift another building. That is it there. And that's what the man was saying, that if this one don't work, then what will happen? He said form is a symbol, and symbol is mythology. It's that you see inside this book, I'll just rush over it. He said to prove himself, he went to the work of one architect, Christopher Wren, 1640. Christopher Wren is one of the early British architects. Look at that church on the right. It's called St. Peter's Cathedral. It's still standing today. The same way he conceptualized is still there. But what did he use? He used Kabbalah symbol. Kabbalah is a traditional Jewish mysticism. It is about the Torah, the first 5 books. And he said that if he must build this to be an architecture of God, it must use this simple symbol. So he now, what is there in the Bible, the first 5 books, they turned to a symbol, and the symbol was used to farm up this building. So form do not follow function, form follows symbol. Building is a symbol. It's an architectural symbol. Symbol represent every nation. If you see Sydney Opera, you don't have to be told that you are talking about Australia. When you see the White House, that is America. When you see the Red Square in Moscow, that is it. That's Russia. You don't have to doubt it. What is the building that can make it Nigeria? Nothing. It's what is on. Why? Because we refuse to think. And we now look at our National Assembly and want to go and pick a mosque, the dome in a mosque, and put it there. It doesn't even carry the essence of the Gwadis. It's not even a mosque, because dome is prevalent. That's a Russian dome. That's what makes the Red Square. So it does not follow function. Some people say they were trying to copy White House, the dome. I said it's not true, because the dome in the White House is a product of Freemasonry. It's not hidden. And that's what we are saying here. We must look at that. It's a form is symbol, and symbol is myth. Myth is about the worldview of a people. Every nation, I don't want to use the word tribe. What should I call Ijaw tribe, Yoruba tribe, Igbo tribe? We are a nation. If you go back to chief, they have their own worldview. It's a matter of now looking at that worldview in words, turn it to a symbol, manipulate it to architecture, you get something original. Let's give 2 examples of form is symbol, symbol is myth. Number 1, I overheard that you will bring in somebody from the office of Zaha Hadid, the Starfish Beijing Airport. That is it. If you Google, you'll see starfish. There are 5-finger starfish, there are 8-finger starfish. Now you can manipulate whatever you want. They all come from an ancient tradition called flower of life. He opted for this. On the right is the first tabernacle. The same 6 fingers, the same 6 fingers here. That one was considered by David Oyedepo, the bishop. Of course, there is an architect. The difference is this. Look at the difference. They shorten the 3 arms in first tabernacle, extend 3. But as a central meeting place, with huge courtyard, just like Zaha Hadid, that is the thinking. That is the issue of originality. Form do not follow function. Form is symbol, and symbol is myth. You will see in this book. And this man was saying, if you want to go ahead, he will pick Yoruba word. What drove the Yoruba school of thought? He said they are number 16 and number 4. As in heaven, so on earth. And he put it. And he now said, this is our own cosmogram. Every nation has their cosmogram. Many of us are doing the history, we're talking about Maya civilization. They have their cosmogram. So, form is symbol. And for you to generate symbol, you can generate symbol from the word, from statements. Let us look at how the next person did it. This young man is a Dr. Kuti Ezibiro. Again, picking on Yoruba analysis. He said the form that we are talking about here, based upon the same numerology of 4 and 16, is what happened here. That if you understand how they conceptualize the divination tree called Okmo divination tree, you will know how the Yoruba culture had come into existence, because that is Yoruba culture, that is Hausa culture, that is Igbo culture, that is another culture, that is American culture. You don't jump to go and lift Swedish culture and want a Nigeria to be living there as we are doing. It's senselessness. Look at the culture that your people use and improve it. That is what is here. So, and that's what he said. In other words, we have now moved from philosophy to theory. Because let me tell you the truth, in school you are taught that all your design starts from concept. It's a lie. Design starts from philosophy. It's philosophy to theory, theory to model, model to conceptual framework. The first 1 through 3 were removed. That is the education that was transferred to us in 1960. Because at that time, 2, 3, 4 are architects, British. Maybe 2 are Indians, making 6. Then you have almost about 100 Nigerians in studio, standing up and rubbing their shirt on the drafting table. They're not taught, they're not architects. They're not supposed to think. Just draft what the architects say. And when they were given, they handed over to Indian architects who were with us for 2 or 3, British Indian, before Nigerian took over. And because Nigerians that took over in the ministry have been enjoying the Oga mentality by the British, they also perpetuate the art of nonsense. That's what gave back to our building. We rushed to go and pick Kesotange to Abuja. It failed because Japanese knew they disagreed with 1933 and they sat down in 1958. And by 1960, they came up with a philosophy called metabolism. How can we use Japanese metabolism for Nigeria? They believe in Shinto. Shintoism is their religion. And you now want Nigeria that's over religious. Because we are very religious people. Either we are Christian or Muslim. But we are extremely ungodly. That is the problem we have as a people. We are religiously ungodly, so we could not come with Shintoism. Go to Abuja, look at all the ministries there. So this man is saying, if he's to conceptualize space in architecture of where we live, he will get this idea from here. The critical thing is the middle square. That is the high level of electromagnetism that allowed the Babalawo to know yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He said he can stay there too and project himself. And that is dealing with the architecture of where we work. It's in this book. I'm telling you now because you are coming to buy this book. That's why I'm here. I'm a salesperson. But we have 3 new other people. They say, okay, if you find it difficult to think philosophically, because you are so religious, you don't want to deal with local people. If you find it difficult to understand the theory, you will understand another thing. It's called metaphor. It's a new type of thinking is essential. That is Albert Einstein. If we must be relevant in Nigeria as professionals, when I say design professionals, architects, urban designers, whatever it is, we need a new thinking if we must be relevant. I must say that not that people were not trying to do so. I know of two Nigerian architects in 1961. One is architect late Olumuyiwa. The other one is not Ayo von Richard. That is the wife. Alan von Richard. They begged Nigerian government that they should use architecture to define Nigeria. But the neo-colonialists who are there, they are Nigerians, so neo. They said no. They opted for the philosophy that is now giving us problems. It's called tropical modernism. So what this next people are talking is here. He said he's going to prove that until we go to the realm of thought, the indigenous Yoruba architecture are the realm of metaphor and thought. And he picked the work of the man that did the philosophy and he analyzed it. His analysis is this. His analysis is this. There is heaven, there is earth. That is what the philosopher, the first person was saying. He said, but if you pick it and you have the capacity to drop the heaven to the earth, you will get an original design. And that is exactly what Plato was saying. Saying there is a realm that we are in a 3D realm. There is a 4D. 4D realm is the realm of virtual reality. But there is a 5-dimensional realm. You want to call it spiritual, you are free. Because Moses never got the building by anybody. We were told that God dictated the building to him. That is the spiritual realm. I'm not good in Quran, but I do know that in Revelation 21:22, they say there's going to be a new Jerusalem. The architecture to lower it down here. This man is saying we must have the capacity as architects to go, if you are religious, as you are a Nigerian and one, to spiritual realm. If not, go to 5D. If not, go to the mental state. Plato called it mimesis. And in form number 2 upon the Hermetic philosophy, saying, as in heaven, so on earth. So migrate when you get, because nobody gave an architect mortar and brick. What you are given is words. We call it brief. Design this. Nobody ever give you tiles or paint. You are given brief. They are words. Words are energy. You must have the capacity as an architect to take the words of your client. You take it from this realm. You meditate upon it, to go and look for a form where there is form. Form is not on internet where you steal. Form is not buying a new camera and jump over to Singapore to go and lift it. That's not where form is. Form is in the word you are given, which is the brief, which is an energy, electromagnetic energy. We now know what the last man was saying, Dr. Kuti, and you bring it down here. But because we are lazy, we don't want to worry our brain. We want the quick thing in. And that's why we have a shippers building without water at Abuja. Yes, you will lift it. Anything is liftable. And there are architects in the ministry who are supposed to say no, they won't say no. So for that sharp practices, they will approve it. Atablana will help them apply fast. This man is saying we must explore metaphor. He said he has gotten many indigenous Yoruba architecture at the realm of metaphor and thought. And every culture has this. I said, you tell me one. He said he will tell me one. He said, give that. Let me read it because it's neck deep in it. He said, Okpolio Marewu Maso, Otitayewu, Chimteriberu Lai Shoshuka. See, there are two kinds of columns. That he does not have to go and go back to the Greek mythology and go and lift Dorian, Ionian, and Corinthian to lift here. It's the same thing. So all you need to do is to fiddle with the capital. But because we are lazy, and if we do a thing like that, they say we are fetish. Because we are so religious, but we are extremely ungodly. But those people are religious and they stay with their religion. Today, the totem poles, we call Dorian, Ionian, and what's the other one? It's there. And I know that I know it back in town. That is their logo, painted white. I shook my head. I asked from this guy who was saying we must be looking for architectural metaphor. He said, well, even for the logo of Anchor, it's the same thing. That's why I'm worried. Whereas there are columns here.
Oh my God.
All right? When I saw the logo, I shook my head. I said, I will tell Dr. Johnson and the team who are working on metaphor. I said, there's metaphor all over. So it's in this book. You guys are going to buy this book anyhow. So you are a marketer.
Oh,
we now come to the next person. He said, okay, if you guys are difficult because you are so sophisticated, you don't hear Igbo, they speak English at home, or you don't hear Yoruba, or don't hear outside, they speak English, you communicate. At least you know the meaning of ornamentation. He said you should understand that this building on the right was not built. Germania Great Hall was conceptualized by Speer for Adolf Hitler. He never knew he would die. Because architecture is what you want to use to define the Third Reich. This man was saying, simple. What he did is very simple now. He went to the Assyrian in the Bible background to leave this one. So why can't we go back and look at our own ornaments? We have beads in our hand. Color, it has meaning. We have beads, our sheep have red card. It has meaning. And he said he's going to give us an example on how to abstract ornamentation. Either you think it through and take it to architectural parts. Not only that, but that will form a foundation for architectural entrepreneurship. Because many architects are jobless now. Our leaders do not protect us. Americans, architects are still protecting those who are in school. If you go to the US today, you cannot practice. I can bet you. You will first of all do city group, county exam, state exam, before you now do federal. Somewhere you feel in between line. But here, someone will come from Malaysia, will come with a drawing, will be looking for Nigerian to stamp. We are now stampers, we are no more architects. I wish our people are talking. I can say anything I want. I'm a landscape urban designer. You see, nobody can harass me. Look at this man, Degede. He said, okay, you think you cannot think? You think your head is so sugar, you are so religious? Then, if you are looking for idea, go to Abeokuta there where they are doing batik. You are looking for design idea, go to Oyo where they are carving. Or stop over at Oshobo, or go to any fashion designer anywhere. You can get an idea. And so he got this. And he said he's looking for the Yoruba nest inside it. The Yoruba nest is about the sign. It's about the sign numerology. It's 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256. That is the Yoruba nest there. The Bible is 144. That is the root of Gothic architecture. Go and check it out. And that is the root of New Jerusalem. 12 gates, 12 symbols. He's saying once he can get this one, if he does not get 8, he will use 4. And he got this. And he bought this shirt. And he said he bought the shirt. He wore it 2 or 3 times, but he has been looking at the shirt every day for the past 2 years. He wake up and look at the shirt. Now he now abstracted the ad there. He turned into the next one. Took it to parametric, simple parametric, not the complex one. No. He got this. Because even AutoCAD has parametric design. From there, he was able to turn the art here into wallpaper, into door frame, into lintel. His thinking is that if only he can create job for Nigerian architects, because Chinese is angry with that the Chinese have taken over Ashoke. What did China do? Very simple. We use the same pool system. All the nations in Nigeria, whether you're Igbo or Yoruba, it's the same pool system we use with the Chinese. They took the design, took it over there, put it on a parametric design, and they now mass produce it to sell there. He said, to him, architecture can change the life of people if only we can rely upon ornamentation. And we have different kind of ornamentation. He just give an example. It's in this book. The next group are saying they are not looking at a city scale. They said that in 2013, UN Habitat, the cities are not born great, nor have great net trust upon them. They become great when they develop a great public space system. That is the public realm. But we don't have public space system. Anyway, architecture has even run away from a city in Nigeria. I asked that question when I was with the Mondo group of architects in those days. We were still there, but around late 80s, architecture ran away from city, like for urban design. They ran away from subdivision. And I asked them, who did Lagos Regional Master Plan? They say it's Dosiadis. Upon what philosophy? They say it's acoustics. Who is he? He says he's an architect. Why is Nigerian architects now chased away from the city level? Why? I said, okay, who did the study of Lagos Metropolis in 1984? That one they hired him is called Wilbur Smith on the World Bank. Where is he from? It's from Chicago. Who is he? Shattered architect. Metropolitan. Festac does this. Why is it that all Nigerian architects think about now is only one plot? And that one plot, they must go and steal the building from Dubai. Something is wrong with our thinking. And this man said, well, as for him, if he can apply the last person's theory, he can redefine Lagos. He said to him, Lagos is suffering from 3 philosophies that are fighting each other. The indigenous area philosophy based upon organic, typical Yoruba. Ebenezer Howe philosophy introduced by Lord Lugard through the Lugard Cantonment Proclamation of 1904. The couple, Jane and Drew, the disciples of Mr. Corbusier that practiced in Chandigarh, that came and come with tropical modernism, that Nigeria has accepted. Instead, that's what's wrong with Nigerian cities. I say proof. It's that Leko has their own. Ipodo, Adikeja has their own. The core area. The core areas are like this. Surrounding is GRA, former European quarters. Episode Howe philosophy. Then is this building that the Nigerian copied from? I've forgotten the name now. The architect. The architect was even brought to Nigeria in 1985 at the age of 80. And I say, hey, no more people in Nigeria to do anything. I think they call. I forgot the man's name now. I know the estate. He said, well, so now he said Lagos is suffering from. He said the soul of Lagos is where the city DNA is. He said because if you know your DNA, you will know who give back to you. that if there's a crisis between the husband and wife, they go and do the DNA test now. You know who wants the baby. So for now, nobody wants Lagos, Abuja, Onitsha, all Nigerian cities don't have a father anymore. He said, why? He said because they are suffering from 3 DNAs in the one body. And that 3 DNA is what they call chimerism. And the only way to remove chimerism is to, he said, we inject Lagos with Awori norms and values vaccine. And see, because he said, because why? He heard that when they inject this COVID-19 vaccine, it can mutate your DNA. He said you want to mutate the DNA of Lagos so that the DNA is the only one. So people from Makurdi, they should inject the DNA of Chief norms and value. People from Owerri, they should inject the DNA of Igbo norms and value and shake. I said, how will you do that? They say we go back to what the last person did. Through urban code. All right. And that is what is there. So the next person, he said, okay, there are masters in Nigeria. He went back to go and study the Masuwoku because in the book of 1001 buildings you must see before you die all over the world. He's the only Nigerian that is recognized as an architect. Other ones were not. The book is there. Go and check it out. And she went studying the Masuwoku all over. Said, what is the secret of this master and philosopher, the Masuwoku? Why is he the only one with all Nigerian architects? Harina interviewed the old man, took 3 of his seminar project. I said, what do you want to do? He said he want to start. If he knows Yoruba-ness in there, if he knows the Igbo-ness inside that building, inside his job, if you know the TV-ness there or the Hausa-ness there, he will not be able to come with a template that will define Nigerian architectural areas. Using the color. It's in this book. So that is where we are. This is the book that have come to market. It is the honor of Professor Igwe. We agreed together. We will not sell this book 20,000 naira. We refuse to. We refuse to sell it 15,000 naira. Go and get the same book online. You will see how much it costs. Not even 10,000. We say we will sell it for only 8,000 naira, so that students will buy and get inspiration. So the architect will get and landscape architect will buy. Urban designer will buy. Fashion designer will buy, because we drink from the same source. It's the same design thing. 8,000 naira. That is the book, guys. 8,000 naira. And after the next six months, when we hand over to eBay and Amazon, I can bet you it's going to go to about $25-30 plus freight 40, multiplied by 500 naira. You know how much that is? So you better come. That is the architectural conference, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That everything is in the womb of thinking. If only you can just choose to think and look inward and use caution, you'll be able to come with an original design. But if you look for the Nigerian quickie, then buy it ticket, go to Dubai, deceive people, and go and plan the building here. So we are learning that what happened to the National Theatre will happen to your building. Thank you all.
Wow, awesome. Can you stop sharing your slides so that I can see? That is awesome. It's awesome. I have mixed feelings. I have to say, I have mixed feelings about this conversation. I have mixed feelings. Why do I have mixed feelings? I'm sure, Omolade, if I peep into your mind, you have the same mixed feelings. You know why? Because from the analysis, from the exposition, the way Professor Tunde Adejumo has expounded this conversation, one thing that keeps ringing in my mind is that we as a people, we as a profession, a body of architects, we have been shortchanged. We have been shortchanged. Because truly, truly, like I said, like the quotation he made, if you don't know where you are coming from, you will not know where you are going to. And it's just like the pelican in the desert. If you know a pelican is a seabird. You see a pelican by the seaside, by the beach side. So when you see a pelican in the desert, you know that pelican has lost his way. And that is exactly what the Justice Professor Olatunji Adejumo has done. Because if we go by the thinking, design thinking, and the philosophy, I will read out the notes I jotted from this wealth of discussion. Very insightful and instructive. Very insightful and instructive. If you go by the design thinking and the processes and the philosophy and the cultural input that we should incorporate and integrate and infuse into our design thinking that brings about eventually the model and the concept of what we do, you will find out that we are far away. We are far from reality. We are far from our own contextual reality. I'm both happy and I'm both sad. It's a mixed feeling. That's why I say I have mixed feeling. I'm happy this conversation is coming at this point in time in history. Professor Joseph Igwe, I want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
Professor Olatunji Adejumo, I knew you wouldn't let me down. When I say braggadocious, I knew what I was talking about. You even went as far as Yabin Anka. Our logo. Oh my God. Prof does not spare anybody. No person's ox is God. He doesn't care. He will tell you that is the criticism. That is the criticism in this architectural conference, in this discourse. The criticism is about troubleshooting. It's about troubleshooting. What he did was troubleshooting. Criticism is not tearing down. Criticism here is tearing down, pulling down, and building. And that is what the duo of Professor Joseph Igwe, who laid the foundation, and Professor Adejumo built the substructure. Guess what? It's not a one-story building or a bungalow we are building on this conversation. This architectural history, theory, and criticism is a skyscraper. Skyscraper in the sense that it's in series. And trust me, Akon will be very interested in this. So you will do well to follow through with all the conversation as the webinars unfold. They are definitely coming back. I hope you know, both of you, you know you are coming back.
Yes,
SARS, you are coming back.
Of course.
And I know you have a lot of bullets in your arsenal to shoot, troubleshoot, shoot and troubleshoot. Let's kill the colonial slavery that has entrapped us to continue to copy and paste. Let's break the circle of copy and paste. Let's dig into our roots, into our cultural roots. Look at that display of the batik. How that man, who was that man you said? Yes, one of the authors. Look at how he translated and transcribed batik on fabric into elements, architectural elements. That is thinking, design thinking, ability to interpret. In fact, I wrote some things down. Let me just read through my notes that I jotted down so that it will add to your own notes. You will enrich your own notes. It says, philosophy is the key thinking process of art and science for creation and conceptualization. Philosophy is aimed to direct our originality in creation growth, and development in a sustainable way. The aspect of architectural criticism is to troubleshoot the maladies in our contextual Nigerian architecture. Form do not follow function. We have been carrying that thing in our head since we were in school. My God, look at how ignorant. You see, I think the good book says, my people die, my people perish because they lack knowledge. They lack relevant knowledge. Not just any relevant knowledge to the body of knowledge that you are professing to engage or practicing. He said, form do not follow function. It follows a symbol. He talked about the symbol of America, White House. They have there the Statue of Liberty. Sydney, Australia. Sydney Opera, Australia. The Grecian, what's it called? Red Square, Russia. When you see the symbol, you know where it's coming from. Where is our own symbol? Where is our own honor? It's lost in all this mix. It's veiled by us always being inferior. Our own design thinking is always in an inferior way. And guess what? Ours is even superior because we are actually, our architecture is a interpretation of nature. God's own creation. Because when you look at around you, you just see nature talking to you about how you can evolve and innovate your design thinking to form a model, to form a design concept. In fact, this is awesome. This is awesome. He says, if we refuse to think, we will allude to form follows function. That is the mental slavery we have to break. It is a mental slavery that our institutions have taught and incorporated and ingrained into our heart. And we have to break that mental slavery through architectural history, a sound grasp of architectural history, theory, and understanding how to critique it, to be able to place our own in the global space. Why can our own architecture not be a Pritzker winning award concept? We should be proud of what we have. We should keep serving our best dishes on a trash can. I heard that from Bill Cosby when I was small. He was telling his children, he said that, look, why people don't accept you is because you keep serving your best meal on a trash can. We should take ownership of our roots, of our culture, integrate it into our architecture confidently, and present it to the whole world. That is the thing. That is the symbol, the discussion. He says form is symbol and symbol is myth. Form do not follow function. It follows symbol and symbol is myth. Words are energy. You must take words of your client and go to the realm of thinking to interpret into a philosophy that backs a model and a concept. Everything is in the womb of design, guided by the roots of our culture. I mean, this is awesome. If this is series 1, if this is the foundation, what will the coming series be like? What bombshell does Professor Tunji Adejumo have for us again? Because for me, it looks like we have had it all. But with this professor I'm seeing, hey, I don't think so. It's not so. Professor Igwe is here. He's smiling. These are men who have carried this thing in their womb for years. And it's now coming at this time in history. There's someone who is raising, before Omolade speaks, there's someone, can you unmute Olorun Toba Kayode? Yes. Can you unmute Olorun Toba? Let him give his input into this conversation. This is the time of bringing in your inputs, your questions. In fact, I don't want anybody to type anything in it. Let us talk about this thing. Let us have this conversation. It is a conversation for the liberation of Nigerian architecture. and the architect, Nigerian architect. Ọlọ́run Tọ́ba, you have the floor. Unmute yourself. Ọlọ́run Tọ́ba Káyọ̀dé, please. You can go on. We can't hear him. Ọlọ́run Tọ́ba Káyọ̀dé. Ọlọ́run Tọ́ba Káyọ̀dé, we can't hear you, please. Can you unmute yourself? Or Omolade, can you help him? Ask to unmute. He's talking, but he doesn't know he's not on. Okay, Adeola who? Adeola? Anybody wants to have an input into this conversation, please, just by show of a raise of hand. Okay, there is Patience Igwe there. Patience Igwe. You can kindly unmute yourself. Omolade, can you unmute Patience Igwe? Just raise our hands now. We need to have this conversation amongst ourselves. We need to counsel ourselves wisely and be guided. Okay? Then while you are that, is there any question and answer that has been fielded in the chat box? Okay. Okay, I think if that is the situation, it looks like it's explicit. Okay, I have my upcoming Imagine about to be professor, Joseph Uwa Effiong, one of our guest speakers, our lecturers at the just concluded APCA tutorial lecture. Joseph, can you unmute yourself? You need to speak into this conversation. Joseph, I cite you. You are there. Unmute yourself. Joseph, I want you to contribute into this conversation. Chief Larry, I cite you. Do you have anything to say? Do you have any input? Do you have any question? If you do, raise your hand so we can unmute you. Chief Larry Koyen. Okay. It's important we have this feedback. It's important we have feedbacks. It's important we have feedback so that we know that there is value for.
Adeposi Adeogun, please, can you unmute yourself and say something? Adeposi Adeogun. Adeposi Adeogun, can you hear me? Please unmute yourself.
Let me just confirm. Please, can you hear us? Can you, by raise of hand, signify if you can hear us? Maybe that's where the challenge is. I called on architect Joseph Uwa to unmute himself and lend his voice to this conversation. I don't know if he's still with me. I also did ask Chief Larry Koyen if they have one or two things they want to add, subtract.
Architect Adeyemi Adefeyinti, please, can you contribute to this conversation?
Okay.
Adeyemi Adefeyinti, please unmute yourself.
Okay.
Is it right?
No. It's not. It's not. Okay. Okay. John Alade, can you hear us? Can you just wave your hand if you can hear us? Can you just wave your hand if you can hear? Okay, do you have any contribution? Do you have any contribution? Please, can you unmute yourself and speak? John Alade, kindly unmute yourself and speak.
Yes.
We can't hear you.
I've done that. That means that's the network. Hello? I think there's a challenge somewhere.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Hello, sir, you can hear me now?
Yes, I can. I just adjusted my volume.
Okay, I think. Well, I count it as a great privilege to be part of this this meeting, and after hearing all these things from both the two professors, Professor Adejimo and then the other professor, I asked myself, is architecture actually is going to be, do we have future in this country? And then the question is giving me a little challenge here. As if you look at it, that everything we are doing, especially like architect Adejimo or Professor Adejimo said, he said, most of the architects in this country, we are just stampers. When people bring design from Singapore, bring from US, they just come and stamp. That's all we do. But my little question is in form of an advice. People like Professor Latuji and others should come together and let them have do something I can call a sustainable policy and give it to ACON to regularize all these anomalies. And then I believe if they can do that, we can be sure that our tomorrow better than today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, John Alade.
Thank you, sir.
Prof, you want to respond to that? Professor Adejimo, you want to respond to that, please?
Thank you. I will respond briefly. I will respond on the platform of architectural critic. In architectural criticism, you are free to say anything you want, and you say it and go your way, and anybody that like it, take it. There are three groups of people that can define a nation. If you go back and look at history, the political class, they define a nation architecturally. I'll give you a modern example. There's one woman called Golda Meir, who was the president of Israel. When he came to power in that should be the early 60s, he assembled 7 professionals, 5 architects, 2 planners. One of them is Peter Hall. Another one is a fisherist. I can see the book now that he has, but his name is what I'm trying to remember. He has only one mandate. Say, give me architecture of Jerusalem. And he jammed the door and left. And they start thinking. After about 6 months, they came out. They came back. Out of the 5, 4 are Jews. No, 6 are Jews. What did they do? They saw it as a commission, and they could name their resort Jerusalem Stone. That is the architecture that is the architecture policy. That is a city of old that have the capacity to take the technology of now, including color. Now, that is the political class. America did it when America was to become the world power. David Boham is the architect who did Chicago in Chicago and has a philosophy, what they call City Beautiful movement. The landscape architect is one man who brought Central Park to New York. Two of them meet together. The mandate give us, we are going to be the world power. It is what is wrapped up in what is called Macmillan Commission. That influence what they call Fordism, F-O-R-D, Ford. Question then is, our political class are jaundiced. The next group that can change the face are the intellectual class. That's where I belong. Though. But we took a lot of Valium and we slept off. We have been sleeping since 1960. We're just waking up now. We took Valium 100, not even Valium, not even Valium 10. The next class are the management class in the mode of Akon. Akon is 51 years old. Architecture in Nigeria is dying of eternal bleeding. It's called implosion. See, we have problem.
So
until the academic class sell it to the professional class, to sell it to the political class, we don't know. We can only be now, and that's why we are now troubleshooting. Maybe when John Alade becomes the president of Nigeria one day, or when he becomes the minister, maybe then he will instruct Akon to remove all the agbada, pack themselves and go to Obudu cattle ranch, fasting and praying for 21 days to reset Nigerian architecture. Maybe then. So my answer to you is maybe. Just maybe. Thank you.
Well, the further we have this conversation, the further my heart becomes heavy. John, you agree with me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
John, you agree with me, right?
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I believe.
Please, can you unmute yourself? Unmute yourself.
Okay. Good evening. Can you hear me?
You want to lend a voice to this conversation?
Yes. Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think standing on existing protocol,
you raising your hand. Adeyemi Adefehinti. Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm talking already. That's why I asked, can we all hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, so I think first off, a deep sense of appreciation to our two erudite professors in person of Professor Igwe and Professor Adejumo for their wealth of knowledge that they've shared with us. But for me, just as a little contribution, because this is an ongoing process. First thing, in major civilizations or change of events, as it had happened in any sphere of engagement in the world, there comes a time where there is reckoning. And reckoning here, I mean, some pioneers come together to do a thorough assessment of the time. And at the end of that assessment, they chart a way forward as to what should be the next step that we should take. Now, that being said, I will summarize or factorize what the two prof have said, and my take home from it is, this is the time for us to act. Because your understanding of the time is not just for you to look at what the time is saying, but it's for you to do a quick analysis and comparison of, one, what does the history say about this time? Are there been subsequent events that point to what is happening now? and what might be the likely end. And I think this is what has been analyzed for us. It's more for me a merger between, if we're getting this type of pool, ideas and suggestions from the academia, then I think it's important, possibly taking it on the first step, to see how this can be merged with the professionals outside. Because for me, if we're to rewrite and redirect the story of architecture in Nigeria for it to get the proper value it deserves, it's important that we come to a time like this. But a fraction cannot take this decision. Things like these are meant to be at the front burner for everybody to look at, whether as a form of publication, journal, or whatever, or a way of communicating to our con, as it's been suggested. But it's more important that we bring discussions like this out for everybody to look at. I love the way Professor Adejumo put it. What differentiates your drawing as it stands now as an architect from that of a draftsman? Nothing. Truth be told, nothing. But the real sense is, are there steps our con can take to ensure that the submitters that we put in clearly shows the difference in this whole thing? Then also, what role do we need to play? Because see, it's similar to what is going on in the country. It's just occurring at a smaller sphere. How can we redirect and re-engineer the history of architecture in Nigeria, that it speaks one of the originality in terms of what the history of architecture is in Nigeria, and at the same time protest and provide solution for us going forward? So also, I mean, in conclusion, is a thing that, yes, I'm happy the academias have woken up, decision that has been taken from there, but we shouldn't just leave them in the file and archives of academic publication within the four walls of the school. This should form the deciders of events. This should form the core of discussion when the body, the central body, possibly ACON and NIA now, are able to meet and discuss. And I think with that, by the time we go over the discussion over time, people get used to it, and there comes a consensus of a general agreement of this understanding. And before you know it, as Professor Igwe said, it will just be like a change of idea. People push for something else and we decide that this is how we want things to be done. I think these are just some of the things I want to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Patience Igwe made a comment on the chat box, and I'm going to read it. Thank you for the passionate presentation. It is believed that for a nation to grow, it must educate its youth. As a follow-up to Architect Alade's contribution, I would like to ask how a student with this school of thought that conceptualization is riding on philosophy gets away with it in a system or academic institution that does not reward originality or encourage the inquisitive. Keep in mind that the student graduating is riding on his or her response to what he or she is being taught. Thank you so much, Patience Igwe, for your question.
Which of my prof wants to respond? That is your daughter, Ali? Is that your daughter? No. Oh, that's another Igwe. The Igwes have formed a constituency here. Sir, you need to research to whether you have a cultural root with that Patience Igwe. Please, can you respond, Prof? Prof, yes, go on. Well.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much for your comment and questions. Few of students applying philosophy in a studio work when the lecturer maybe has his own fixed idea of what studio should be. Okay, should not deter you from being thoroughly groomed as to becoming an architect. Yeah, I agree. The jury system we have, the method of assessing student work. Personally, I find a lot of faults, even in my own university. Most of the lecturers look at the work and judge it from their own personal perspective rather than from the perspective of the student. For me, I do not use my own idea of how I would do it to judge a student. What I want the student to tell me is, what is your thinking before you arrive at this? What's your thought process? You now tell me this is what I think, this is what I think, and so I had this idea. Now I'm going to follow your work based on that idea you have told me. If you follow it logically, that is it. But if you do not have your own idea and you live from internet, which is very common, and adjust it slightly to suit what the lecturer likes, he will praise you. But it's not training you. And I find out that most students who score very high in studio, they are scored very high in studio by their lecturers. During the final year, when they do their thesis and will bring external examiner, the score of the external examiner does not follow the pattern of what you are scoring. You see students who have scored before score very high with the external examiner because you don't know them, there's no bias. It's, look at it objectively. Okay, so don't bother about whether the lecturer will oppose or that. You must have an idea, cultivate that habit. And you have an idea. By the time you explain your idea, it's not only one juror. One lecturer will be opposed to it, another lecturer will say, no, I like what he's saying. I know in my time, we used to have real arguments during jury. In my time, have arguments with our lecturers. I personally have had that situation where a lecturer tried to wash down my design. And I told my because you are not basing your judgment on my, logical concepts. You are basing it on the way you will design it, even the architect. But I cannot always follow your own way. You have to see how I think. And then he fled off. In those days, by the time we go to school, we were not young, so we know why we are paying school fees. So he fled off. I told him, you can't tell me, I pay school fees to be taught. And I'm present back. You can't just rubbish me. If my work will have problem, tell me specifically what is wrong with it. Not you say, why did you do this? No. Not why I did it. I do not satisfied with it. Is that the issue? If I'm satisfied with it, if I'm not satisfied with it, tell me what aspect you like. So we should come to a situation where it will be a dialogue. You see, students should not always be docile, just listen whatever the lecturer says is follow. No. If you stay like that, you will not, it's the same garbage in, garbage out that we will get. We need to begin to be radical. I personally like radical students. And I've always supported them when they have been, in jury. No, the guy has a radical idea. It's radical people that will improve this, the profession in future. So let him develop it to full, but this is going to be very expensive. Now I said, do you give them a budget? You asked them to design something, you didn't give them a budget. Why are you complaining that it's expensive? It's expensive. You didn't ask him to design a budget. And what is mean is exploding his ideas. So we have to begin to learn to do things the proper way. We are not thinking enough because we are not reading enough. We are doing too much of drawing. We are not doing enough of reading. They teach architectural history. Students just take it for granted. You know history. To memorize certain things apart exam, you forget it. That will not help. How many students read about theory? How many students read philosophical things? So we need to be reading. Wider. Okay? And then you find it easy to get the concept. And then once you get a good concept, your work flows.
So don't bother about whether the lecturer will say they don't like it. If they don't like it, another lecturer will say he likes it. And for analysis, they will come to a compromise. All right? So I think we, not only students, both architects and practice, most architects and practice are not reading. We need to read. And less school does not know. So we need to read things. As you are reading, you are developing yourself intellectually in every sphere. And then you can easily see why things are the way they are. Because you see what is in other places, why it is like that. But these days now, like I said, give a student a project or ask him to take a project, he first downloads from the internet, what are going to do? Then we run a proposal to suit that. And then he brings the job. I said, how did you originate the idea? He looked at me. I did it like this. Why? What is the idea? It's so easy for me to know if it's original. So we need to read. The more we read, the more we have it. All right? Too much of pressing this handset and so on. We spend too much time. Students spend too much time, doing that. We need to read. Reading is important. Read magazines, read books of architecture, and then you will develop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. In fact, we can go on and on and on. Our host broadcast center provider here signified to us that we have exceeded our time. The conversation will go on. I'm telling you, it will go on and on. And definitely it's going to go on. It's going to go on. Before we wrap up, any question from the chat box? But there's something I want to do. I want to hear from someone from the north. Abdulhamid Bala. Abdulhamid Bala, please can you unmute yourself and turn on your video? Please say something. Let there be an input from, because this is one Nigeria. I will let there be an input from. They represent the northern caliphate, the northern geopolitical zone. Abdulhamid Bala, please unmute yourself and make your brief contribution before we wrap up this first segment of the webinar. Abdulhamid Bala, are you there? Are you there? Okay, he's not there. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, I'm sure we've all taken so much from this conversation. Omalade, you have something? Okay, go on. There's a question. Go on.
Bayer is asking a question. He said, a follow-up to the last point on academics. Can architectural training be tied practically with other allied professions in school? What I mean is, can we have a semester where a real-life brief can be commissioned to student groups that will include students from architecture, civil or structural engineering, creative arts, building and quantity surveying students, thereby fostering real professional experiences while being trained?
Professor Alipo, in 2 minutes, respond to that, sir. Thank you.
Well, I would say it's a step in progress. I must say that the British have amended their curriculum 10 times. We are still using the curriculum that they handed over to us. What you are asking is what normally happens. Even they call it offshore during summer. You can take for 2, 3, 4 students or 10. You can migrate from here to Brazil and meet different people you miss and you come over here. Not a charrette, but a real outfit. I believe we will get there. I do know that NUC is fiddling with a new curriculum now, and in that pattern, I believe they are thinking about that. That's what make any not only architecture, other professional complete one. when we generally in time in those days we call it practice without border. In other words, you know about engineering know about architecture. We will get there. For now, our studio is still casting iron, and I believe very soon we will melt the iron and we will sort ourselves out. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much. We need to wrap up. You have another question there, right? Or was that?
For those interested in getting the book, kindly call or send a message to Dr. Johnson. His phone number is on the chat box. His phone number is there. Thank you.
Look into the chat box for that information. Thank you so much. Professor Igwe, Joseph Igwe, we want to thank you. Happy birthday once again. God bless you. Professor Adejumo, Olatunji Adejumo, both of you did a brilliant job. And in fact, I am so happy that Anchor is able to bring together eggheads, brilliant minds that talk to the heart of the matter. And that is what this conversation has initiated. Let us take it home, let us take this webinar as a thought-provoking, to provoke us to begin to think differently, to provoke us to begin to approach our design thinking with more depth in the way we go about our design thinking. I want to thank everybody that has participated, and before we go, I want every one of us to turn on our videos so we can do a screenshot. This is part of the documentation that will be forwarded when the time comes for Akon to ask us this is like a proof of like evidence that those who participated. So it's unfortunate some people have exited. Well, we can't help that. Maybe we should have announced that from the onset. And you know, it's always good when you come into conversations in the meetings like this, always ensure you stay to the very end to get the whole broth of the conversation, so you don't speak half truths and blot out errors here and there. So kindly switch off, turn on your cameras, please, so we can quickly have this screen capture. Let us quickly do that, please. Turn on your cameras. Our time is fast spent. We are supposed to, in fact, they've signaled to us that we should be out. Please, quickly, so I can quickly, Prof, you can join Omolade close up so that, Professor Olatunji, please turn on your camera too. Yes, yes. Architect Collins Ovia, turn on your camera. Abdullah Mid Bala, turn on your camera. Patience Igwe, turn on your camera. Oluwabumi, turn on your camera. Thank you. Please adjust yourself. Obasanjo Akintoye, please turn on your camera. Thank you. Oluwasegun Eson, adjust yourself very well so you look good. You are well set for the photo shoot. And your cameraman is no other than your National PRO and Media Directorate. ABO, we call him ABO. That's Architect Bodrin Ogutoye. All right, I think we're all set. I don't think Architect Collins Ovia is there, and Abdulmalmi, but well, we capture their names. So let me go to our snipe now. Okay, are you ready? Everybody take a good posture and just say cheese. I'm about to snap now. Action. Wow, what happened? Okay, let me just see. I've taken it just into my computer file. Thank you. All right. Is that? Do we have? Let me see whether we can scroll. That is all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It has been, a robust, insightful, and instructive. It's both insightful and instructive conversation we've had here from the erudite, retired but not tired, Professor Joseph Igwe, and the braggadocious Professor of Landscape Architecture, Professor Olatunji Adejumo. I thank you both. Adeomi, Olmonade, you are too much. I mean, you are showing yourself as a product of Professor Joseph Igwe and Professor Adejumo. You are doing well. You are doing well. You know who says you are doing well. I won't say here, but you know who says you are doing well. You are doing well. You are doing well. So, to all of us, thank you for coming. Bayo Agbaje, Adeposhi, Adeogun, John Alade, Adeleye Adefeyi, Oluwasegun Esan, Seyi Orenuga, Ojebola, Abayomi, Patience Iwe, Olubunmi, Oluwabomi Dare, Sowemimo, Oluwafarati, Omoni Olatunji, and Usman Saliu, and Olorun Toba Kayode. Thank you, Tola Amuso, Obasanjo Akintoye. Thank you all for coming. And stay tuned on all anchor platforms, social media outlets for the next webinar that is going to be next Saturday. You don't want to miss that. It's going to be about building information modeling, BIM, how you can integrate BIM practically and successfully in the mix of what you do in practice. You don't want to miss that. That is coming on the heels of one of my very intellectually robust, and he was one of the lecturers in the just concluded APC lecture. I will not tell you. I will keep it in. I will put you in suspense. Until we'll meet again next week. We are signing out here from the flagship of Association of Nigerian Chartered Architects, ANCA, and we say thank you for coming. And this is your national PRO and media director, Architect Bodoro, signing out, saying God bless, and we wish you succeed in all you do. Thank you. Bye bye. Leave the meeting.